I have a hard time seeing how Lorenzo Norman would end up fitting in at Penn State and Oklahoma State, yet these two schools are battling for him.
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
He is Cody Stovall of Locked On Oklahoma State. My name is Zach Seyko of Locked On Nittany Lions. And thanks so much for being here for this wrestling crossover as Penn State and Oklahoma State are battling for Lorenzo Norman. And it seems like Norman is going to end up in Stillwater. We're going to get to the latest there. That's where we'll kick things off. But we're also going to talk about the national duels. Penn State is not there. Does this mean that the national duels are on their final stand? The NCAA is also set to vote on the new 5-for-5 eligibility rule, how that's going to impact the Cowboys and Nittany Lions. We'll get to that last. Let us know your thoughts down in the comments section. Do you want Lorenzo Norman if you're a Penn State fan, if you're an Oklahoma State fan? For Penn State, they're not going to tell him no, right? If he's genuinely interested in coming in and battling for, because 174 is open at Penn State. Now, there are a lot of contenders for that spot, so there's not exactly a fit for Norman, but over in Stillwater, you kind of have the same dilemma, except there's not as much resistance. It's really, I see it, it's just Alex Facundo.
Yeah, this honestly makes the most amount of sense, right? We don't know exactly what's going to happen at the end of the day. Whenever you have the heavy hitters involved, Penn State, Oklahoma State, even Ohio State, then
they're there too.
You really don't know what's going to happen at the end of the day, because I think all three of us are probably circulating the same rough NIL figures, right?
I'd say Penn State and Oklahoma State are pretty up there. I know Ohio State's competitive, but when we're talking about the levels to it, Penn State and Oklahoma State are pretty all in.
Correct. And like you said, like there's no shortage of talent at Penn State, but at the same point in time, Cael Sanderson very well understands that if he continues to have the best back room in the country, then he's going to keep winning national titles. So this would be a perfect fit for both of us. However, I do think that there's a little bit of a better path to least resistance at Oklahoma State. There was a lot of conversations about D. Lockett moving up, but if you're not dominating 165, I don't know why you would move up to 174. I think D should lock down 165 and prove that there's nobody else in the country better before he makes that transition. You already mentioned it. Alex Facundo and Zack Ryder both come over with good relationships. Well, we just went and got Bennett Berge because we don't know exactly what's going to happen with Zack Ryder injury-wise. And even if Zack Ryder was 100% healthy, I think that was an indication from David Taylor saying, hey, I understand where my limitations are, and I understand that no matter how great my relationships are with Facundo and Ryder, we got to win, and we got to win now, and we got to score points. And if I can bring somebody in that can help facilitate that, I'm going to do it. Even if it just simply makes Zack Ryder and Alex Facundo better, I've got to get this room scoring points. And Lorenzo Norman would be a perfect fit because of exactly what we just said. Keep D. Lockett at 165 pounds. Let Bennett Berge fight for that 184 spot. And let Lorenzo come in and compete with Alex Facundo for this 174 spot. Because here's the deal. I think Penn State wishes they could get him, because I think most Penn State fans would recognize there's still a gap right now between Oklahoma State and Penn State. But if you get Lorenzo Norman, that gap shrinks fairly considerably, because when you look at Oklahoma State lineups, you're like, okay, 125, 133, 141, 149. These are weights that Oklahoma State should be able to score a lot of points. Landon Robidoux, 157. Yeah. But after 157, it was a big question mark on whether Oklahoma State was going to score any bonus points. Sure. So Penn State fans knew that. If you throw in Lorenzo Norman, this is a guy that obviously is an All-American level candidate with or without Oklahoma State or Penn State's help. Sure. If you get him in that room, the room that has made Zahid Valencia a completely different animal, I think this is a perfect recipe for Lorenzo Norman to have the most amount of success. And lastly, I will add, if Lorenzo Norman was simply worried about getting good enough to win an individual natty, he could probably stay at Stanford. Stanford's a pretty good wrestling program that has a pretty good status of development. I factor here that he kind of wants to be part of a team natty. If he wants an easy potential team natty, he goes to Penn State. But if he sees what we see at Oklahoma State, that we're just missing points in those upper weight classes, if he can come in and provide that, then that gap between Oklahoma State and Penn State shrinks quite a bit, really, really, really quickly.
It certainly gets it closer. I'm a lot more concerned about the prospect of Lorenzo Norman taking on the David Taylor coaching versus Alex Facundo. And what you've said, Norman knows how to score points. The concern about him is availability. Sometimes your best ability is availability. Lorenzo Norman was hurt for, I'd say, all of last season, right? He missed all of last season, even though he was there for a match or two. But the year before, he went 21-6. He had 15 bonus point wins, and he had 7 wins over ranked wrestlers. So when you say, hey, this guy is all-American caliber, yes, he is. And then what happens with the Cael Sanderson, David Taylor effect? That's the idea here. But Norman would be better than Facundo, or if you try to drop Zack Ryder down. Here's what this all says to me is that Zack Ryder is not going to be good for this season. He is on the mend, or else you wouldn't have gotten Bennett Berge. That's
Correct.
what it says to me. But when you look at it from Penn State's perspective and Oklahoma State's perspective, Ohio State, I'm surprised that they aren't the favorite here, because the latest reports from Brian Swaw, who covers wrestling, talked about how it seemed like Ohio State should have been the favorite. And I agreed. I wouldn't have thought otherwise, because they need a plug and play starter.
Yeah.
As Facundo might give Norman everything he can handle. We're assuming Norman gets better, because we've seen, you said Zahid Valencia. Why didn't you say Wyatt Henderson? Why didn't you say
Dean Hamady?
Dean Hamady is the perfect example here. Dean Hamady and Lorenzo Norman are fairly comparable guys that are NCAA qualifiers at their beginning. Qualifiers to All-America contenders, and then just needed that extra bit of coaching, the training partners to really elevate their game. For Lorenzo Norman, I can see the appeal in Oklahoma State, but there is, you are not guaranteed a spot in the lineup. Just FYI, Alex Facundo could very well, even though I would say Norman is the favorite, I'm not going to discount Facundo as a veteran who probably wants to lock down that spot.
Well, I think what you just mentioned about Ohio State, maybe what is pushed them out of the running here. They need an instantaneous plug and play starter.
It's too easy.
Correct. He knows if he goes to Oklahoma State or Penn State, he is going to have to work. He is going to have to elevate his game to another level. And thank you for mentioning it. Guys like Wyatt Hendrickson and Dean Hamady Jr. and Caleb Fish and even Cam Amin, those guys came to Oklahoma State with a pretty good platform, a pretty good pedigree.
Yes. And
they got significantly better. Zahid Valencia, he has a new level of a gas tank at Oklahoma State that he didn't have in college for whatever reason, right? And it's because of the technicals. It's because of the training. And Oklahoma State is a place where you can come as a true freshman and win a national title. Oklahoma State is a place where you can come as a fringe All-American and become a national champion. And lastly, you can also do it with a torn ACL, because evidently that's exactly what Dean Hamady Jr. did. I'm not recommending people do that. But if you're talking about the training and the development and what makes Oklahoma State a unique place right now, it's all of those things. It's David Taylor does have something cooking to a fairly unique degree. Yes, he did get the recipe from Cael Sanderson, but he's found a different way to make
it how you execute it. It's how you work it.
100%, man. So yeah, I think all signs indicate that the best place for Norman is Oklahoma State or Penn State. Running to Ohio State to be the day one starter probably doesn't make him a whole hell of a lot better.
You might as well stay at Stanford at that point.
100%.
I don't see the difference. I don't see how you, unless there's, again, if there are problems, it doesn't seem like Stanford is having all those NIL problems, because Nico Provo returned, Hunter Garvin returned. As far as, unless I'm mistaken, I saw people going back to Stanford. So Norman is the only wrestler that seems to be still in the portal. He's got 3 years of eligibility. We're going to talk more about the eligibility regulations that the NCAA is planning on implementing. But first, we got to get to the national duels. Well, we'll get to it. Penn State won't. They're not going again, but other schools are following suit. Is that an indicator that the national duels are on the way out in due time? Well, we'll talk about that next here on this Locked On Crossover. Today's episode is brought to you by Wayfair. Your outdoor space should feel like you. It's one of those spots that you keep meaning to fix up, but never quite got around to it. That's where Wayfair comes in. They make it easy to find pieces that match the vibe you always wanted. You will love how easy it is to filter by style, by budget, so you can find exactly what fits your space. They have everything all in one place. We're talking seating, decor, lighting, outdoor rugs, you name it. And with thousands of verified reviews, thousands, you feel confident in what you're getting. Now, the space actually feels put together, somewhere where you want to sit, relax, spend time. Get prepped for patio season for way less with Wayfair. Head over to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's wayfair.com, WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. And remember, you can get Locked On Nittany Lions and Locked On Oklahoma State ad-free by becoming a member of the Everydayer Club. Plus, you will get access to a members-only Discord server to talk all things Pokes, all things Nittany Lions. Check the link down in the show notes to learn more and become a member of the Everydayer Club. We're going to get back to the national duels. Penn State not attending. Also not attending a number of Big Ten teams. Nebraska, Michigan, Iowa. And that's the bigger story here. It started with just Penn State, and now it's multiple Big Ten schools. Ohio State's still going to be there. See, that's the interesting thing. The national duels didn't seem to negatively impact the likes of Nebraska. Iowa was Iowa. I don't think that was one way or the other, but you could see Ohio State was kind of definitively that second team, and then Oklahoma State eventually overtook them, and it seemed like the Buckeyes ran out of gas towards the end. Interesting, with all the comments and the backhanded comments from Tom Ryan. Anyway, the national duels, I think they're cool. I think they're fun in theory. I don't like that they're in the middle of the season. I don't like that they're at the beginning or in the middle of the season. If you wanted to add this as an extra leg to the postseason before the individual tournaments, I think that would be teams would be more inclined to partake in that. And it would be a true postseason rather than kind of this all-star tournament, if you will. But more teams are following suit here. And that kind of concerns me about the longevity, which is what Cael was talking about. Why would we really try to prop up this fly-by-night tournament?
Yeah, that's what some people are trying to propagate. But as you had just mentioned, there's still a lot of heavy hitters in here, and I got to give props to Ohio State. There is a degree of separation, it appears, between Oklahoma State and Ohio State, and them getting in this tournament, I think, is a very big deal, because if you notice, the Iowa Chicken Hawks, they are not involved in this tournament, right? That is another team that is kind of,
they're just scared like Penn State.
There it is, dude. And I know we're having fun. We're going to poke fun at Iowa, but realistically, if you're Iowa last year, you did beat Oklahoma State in the Natty Duels, and then you met them at the end of the season before the national titles, and you got absolutely decimated. So it was a night and day difference, and I think that was a massive black eye for Iowa. I don't think they want to go through that again. I think they realize that the degree of separation between this year and last year is even much bigger. So they don't want to go through that. I get that. And realistically, I'm pretty sure Godali's gone, so nobody gives a flying flip about what Michigan does or doesn't do on a mat anymore.
Guys, I think Michigan's going to be better
come on
this
now.
year.
And listen, Virginia Tech is going to be there alongside Ohio
Virginia
State.
Tech's legit. Virginia Tech's legit.
Minnesota's in it. Iowa State's in it. Arizona State's in it. There's still a lot of heavy hitters in this tournament. So people pretending just because Penn State and Iowa are not in it means that this whole thing's falling apart. I do find it slightly laughable. The $1.2 million payout is still in effect, and clearly there's still an incentive to get in this tournament. Now, you guys keep saying that more teams are going to fall off, and it's going to lose some of its appeal and its luster. We'll see, but everyone convinced us that the sky was falling and Iowa was going to drop out, and that was going to mean a bunch of other teams are going to drop out because of Penn State.
Two others followed.
Nobody gives a flying flip about Michigan. I'm so sorry, man. I know you have to propagate.
We care about Wyoming. We care. We care about
Wyoming's got Mark Branch, so of course we care about Wyoming, bro. But that's not a Big Ten school.
You're over here acting. We care about Pitt.
You're acting like because a couple Big Ten schools don't want to be involved, that means that the tournament has lost some of its validity.
These are the elite of the elite. It's not like Michigan State is opting out. Indiana.
I find it laughable, bro. This is the one of the few things that Cael Sanderson has said that I find funny when Penn State fans try to back this thing up, because you look at this roster, this is not an indication of teams are falling off, because does the Big Ten control all of wrestling? I don't think so. If they did, probably somebody in the Big Ten would have finished second in the national championships, but that did not happen. There's a clear degree of separation between Oklahoma State and all these other schools, and I think that it's pretty easy to see. Does Cael benefit from jumping in this tournament? No. And no longer does Iowa, because they have now been exposed. This is now when Virginia Tech and Ohio State, if they decide to bow out, then maybe I'll be slightly concerned. More so with Virginia Tech. We're talking about the upcoming teams. I think Virginia Tech is the next team that could potentially make life problematic for both of us in the next 3-4 years. So To me, Virginia Tech carries way more weight than Michigan. And if Ohio State backs out, then we can have a conversation about the Big Ten doesn't want to be involved, et cetera. But again, Minnesota's in here. Minnesota used to be one of the heavy hitters. It seems like they're trying to invest enough to kind of get back into this conversation.
This is true.
So, yeah, I find it ridiculous. I mean, even OU's in this thing.
I mean, well, and we will talk about heavy hitters. Oklahoma is certainly the furthest thing from that.
Nowadays, they have like 7 natties. Don't calm down now.
You're going to bat for them more than me.
OU historically used to be something in the 80s and 90s. Bedlams were crazy. It's honestly,
anymore.
It stinks.
We got to get back to that.
I know it stinks to see OU wrestling the way that it is. Honestly,
let me throw this at you. What if Penn State sent its B team? Would that be disrespectful? But Penn State shows up, but it's all of the backups.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty decent question. No, I don't necessarily think that it would, right? It would be comparable to having some unattached guys go to the Cliff Keen or something to that effect, right?
Southern Scuffle, yeah.
Yeah, so if you view it from that aspect, I kind of get it. And secondarily, I would kind of welcome it, but that's also why Cael wouldn't do that, because then you could end up with a bunch of Zack Ryder, Alex Facundo situations. If you send your B team to Oklahoma City to end up in a tournament, there's no telling what kind of sweet nothings could be whispered in their ear without Cael Sanderson by the side.
Well, I imagine and see, would Cael send the B team coaches too? Would he be there? But it's kind of how football teams don't want to have spring games to avoid practice footage getting out there. It's kind of the same thing. If a good idea here, Penn State can fulfill the check the box here by sending the B team, but you would also show, look how talented the backups are, truly on full display. And it would add, because there's always the what if. What would they do at NCAAs? If they transferred, would they be instant NCAA title contenders on 99% of the other teams in the country? Basically everywhere else except Oklahoma State, because Joe Seeley or really just Connor Mirasola, those guys that are backups. That would be kind of that indicator. Okay, this is true, this is not true. And maybe Cael doesn't want that necessarily too much out there.
Actually, dude, the more you mention it, the more I think it actually would be kind of cool. Like the more I think of it from an unattached kind of perspective, that would be good to see those guys.
I'm for it. I'm for it from the entertainment perspective.
Well, I mean, I think it's good for the wrestlers, and it's good for everywhere else in the country. But let's be real. It could be a moment for Penn State to flex their muscles. Like, the worst thing that could physically possibly happen is Penn State's B team coming and getting like second place. Like, that would be bad for Ohio State and Iowa.
Yes, it would.
Tech,
yes,
Minnesota, and Iowa State.
Because I don't think the B team would beat the A team for Oklahoma State.
Well,
I won't cross that line.
Well, that's why I said if they come and got second, that would still be a black eye for the Ohio States of the world.
I think they'd make it close with Ohio State.
Yeah.
If not, because I don't know the ins and outs of the Ohio State lineup at this time. And then what if they add Lorenzo Norman, right? Same thing with Iowa. Iowa reloaded. But all those other teams, basically the ones that I'd say are toss-ups: Ohio State, Iowa, Virginia Tech, and I think they would give Oklahoma State a fight. But I'd still take Oklahoma State 9 times out of 10, usually there.
Well, yeah, especially if you factor in Lorenzo Norman. I do think that makes a very
Facundo or Norman, either way.
Yeah, I mean, dude, there's no telling what this could do for Alex Facundo if this were to be, what takes place.
I am for
it would complicate this red shirt thing, right? Whether Olympic red shirt, it'll become problems.
No more Olympic red shirts. No more red shirts. No more gray shirts. Medical red shirts are going to be difficult to come by. The NCAA is set to vote on this, and it seems like it is trending towards you get 5 years of eligibility, and that's it. What does that mean for Penn State and Oklahoma State? Well, it means things are going to get a little dicey. We'll talk about that next here on this Locked On Crossover. Today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. Workplace chaos, deadline stacking up, your inbox is overflowing, and the one position that you have to fill is still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed, sponsored jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you are looking for, whether that's skills, experience, maybe it's location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. Now, here's the stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you are hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Do you need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Today's episode is brought to you by Rocket Money. If you've ever opened up your bank account and thought, where did all my money go? You are not alone. Keeping track of subscriptions, spending, and bills can get overwhelming fast. That's where Rocket Money comes in, helping you take control of your finances all in one place. It tracks all of your subscriptions in one spot and can help you cancel the ones that you do not need with just a few taps. It automatically categorizes your spending so you can actually see where your money is going. And you can set budgets, get alerts, and stay on top of upcoming bills. It just makes everything feel more organized and gives you a clearer picture of your finances day to day. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Let Rocket Money help you reach your financial goals faster. Join at rocketmoney.com/lockedon. That is rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. The NCAA is set to vote for on the 5-for-5 rule, where you get 5 years of eligibility to compete. And that is that. I think we've talked about this. I've talked about this a ton on my show because Penn State has been using the red shirt to kind of leverage the lineup. Oklahoma State is not quite there. There's somewhat, they were trying to use it strategically in ways, right? Now you're getting those wrestlers in. Mikey White could absolutely use a red shirt. Maybe a Rockland Zinkin could use a red shirt, or you put a veteran on a red shirt to maximize whether they're not fully injured, but maybe they could recover and then they don't lose a season of competition. So I am here to say that I am for 5 years of eligibility, but I do think 4 years of competition is enough. I think a red shirt is necessary in some cases, but that's why the NCAA's just will give them 5 years. And if they want to use their red shirt can just be a year of non-competition. So they still exist in theory, but it's not, you can't use it to balance out the lineup. So I get what they're doing. I also get the age limitations. That's what this really is about. They don't want 26, 27-year-olds playing college sports. And it's not so much about wrestling. It's more about football, men's and women's basketball.
Yep.
Where you have grown men and women playing against 18, 19-year-old teenagers. That is what the core issue is here. So I'm not against the rule. It does not benefit Penn State. It does not benefit Oklahoma State. They were maximizing their redshirt capabilities.
Yep.
It just means lineups and the wrestling rooms are going to get squeezed a lot more because there's so much talent. And if you're going to lose, how do you tell somebody, for example, a PJ Duke, or I know Jax Forrest and Sergio Vega, hey, take the red shirt, add on the appropriate weight, and then bulk up a weight class rather than just going right to it. You don't have that anymore. So how do you tell somebody like Forrest or Vega or the Rainey twins or Duke or Blaze, you got to take a year off for the sake of the lineup and to help you long-term? These guys are elite. They don't want to forfeit a year of competition, a chance at an NCAA title.
Yep. Conceptually, I like it. You know, at face value, I love the idea of
across, all sports. Yes.
Nobody wants to see a bunch of 26, 27, 28-year-olds playing college sports. I mean, let's be
It doesn't prove anything to me. It makes me think worse of you.
They all say, you know, we reach our athletic peak around 25, which is strategically in the same window when you're supposed to be turning pro. So if you're reaching your athletic peak at that time, it makes the most amount of sense. So to have college kids operating with NFL bodies, essentially, yes, it's not great. But at the same point in time, yeah, it does directly affect both of us now. It's funny. Timing is everything. If this would have happened 2 years ago, it wouldn't have affected Oklahoma State, right?
Not really,
honestly,
no.
it would have been bad for you guys. But as you just mentioned, we just got to this area where we're going to have to ask at least one of the Rainies to do this exact thing. We're talking about Lorenzo Norman and Alex Facundo. That could be a scenario where one of them is, in a best case scenario, taking that red shirt that is not really applicable anymore. If you now institute this 5 for 5, you can have a red shirt year. As a freshman, it makes sense, right? If you're 18, you're physiologically not quite on the same level as everybody else.
Sure.
That year makes sense. But the days of you taking a red shirt at 22, 23, 24 willingly are kind of going by the wayside. The conversation of, okay, well, Alex Facundo, do what's best for the team like they do at Penn State every year and take this red shirt for Lorenzo Norman. Now, if you're Alex Facundo, you're like, no, I can't. Like, I would, you know what I mean? I would typically, but I cannot do that anymore. And you and I talk all the time about taking Jameson, probably the best Cowboy on the roster that doesn't get talked about enough, that for some reason, he's gutting it out. He's staying. So he's at one of those weights where, is he going to take a red shirt? Is Casey Swiderski going to take a red shirt? One of them is likely going to have to.
I mean, if they were even to have them. I mean, some of these wrestlers that you talked about, Facundo took a red shirt at Penn State, and I'm pretty sure he got a medical red shirt as well. So he's already maximized those red shirt capabilities. But that's why it's more. I think of Caleb Henson over at Virginia Tech, who just did that, who's in his 20s. I don't know his exact age, but he is a veteran. He's going into what would have been his final season, took a red shirt because Virginia Tech said, hey, we'll be good this year, but we want to be even better next year. When we get Bo Bassett in here, why don't you take, and they're trying to reclassify Melvin Miller. I don't know that, neither do I think that's going to happen, but the thought process was, let's get Bo Bassett in here. Let's get Melvin Miller and then defer Caleb Henson's last season to next year to come out with this fully loaded lineup. That was the idea behind the red shirts. And now you just don't have that in these lineup battles where, okay, it's too crowded, but somebody graduates next year. So you can red shirt and then they'll wrestle and then they red shirt and then you wrestle. And then as guys move on, because they're veterans, the lineup progressively just, gets less crowded.
Yeah.
That's not the case anymore. What it's going to do for the sport of wrestling anyway, is it's going to disperse the talent. So Oklahoma State and Penn State, they're loading up. But if guys don't want to forfeit, hey, I got an opportunity to win 5 NCAAs, as crazy and as unlikely. We've only seen Carter Starachi do it, and we never thought it would happen again without some global catastrophe. No, the NCAA stepped in and said, we're just going to make you have 5 years of competition. Also, the other wrinkle to this, if you've used a red shirt, now I imagine somebody's going to sue over this, but if you've used a red shirt, you do not get a bonus year. You get the current wrestlers. If you are on your true status, true sophomore, true junior, true senior, you get a bonus super senior season. The people that have redshirted, it already counts against you. That is one of your years. You just get 5 years flat. I imagine somebody's going to sue, and eventually the NCAA will probably grant everyone an extra year of eligibility, which I don't know that I agree with that, because here we go again. You're already kind of breaking the rules that you're trying to set. You're going back on them. The NCAA needs to plant their flag in the ground and say, 5 years, get over it. This is our league. Go wrestle somewhere else if you don't like it.
I agree with that aspect of it, right? If you've already had a redshirt year, it being counted against you, I kind of get it. The only thing in all of this 5 for 5 scenario I do not agree with is the injury thing. Like, we've seen
there will be exceptions, special exceptions.
Yeah, we'll see. It's gonna, like you mentioned, it's gonna come down to the litigation aspects of it and what the courts end up saying. But to me, like, if somebody tears their ACL, right, and they go through that 6, 9, 10, 11 month rehab, and they come back and they play 6 games and they tear the other ACL, you're going to lose that next season.
Yeah, the NCAA says tough luck.
And that part I don't love, because
if
somebody has a season-ending injury and then it happens again, I don't think he should be penalized for that, because it has nothing really to do with him. So that's the only part of the 5 for 5 I do not like. It should be 5 for 5, with a 6-year extension if you have back-to-back ACL surgeries.
And one extension, no multiple applications. It keeps happening. At some point, you might just...
Yeah, and there have been guys, like, if you, that same scenario, if you tear your ACL, come back, play 5 games, tear your ACL again, you come back next season. If you tear anything after that, you should just call it a day.
Go into coaching.
Yes, call it a day.
There are a lot of discrepancies here. We'll see how the NCAA is going to handle all of it, because you are going to get those questions. You are going to get those legal challenges. There will definitely be legal challenges. And we know the NCAA's record in court is not a good one. If you're betting against the NCAA in court, you are probably a mega millionaire at this point in time.
I will say this, though, like I just mentioned, if this would have come into effect 2 years ago, it wouldn't have affected Oklahoma State. We were not in a position to load the roster with back-to-back.
You probably would have liked it. You probably thought it was great, because then the Penn State leftover talent would have gravitated somewhere else.
And that's exactly what I was going to say. While this rule sucks for Oklahoma State, it sucks even worse for Penn State. This is going to be great for Virginia Tech and Ohio State and Iowa State and maybe even Iowa. Those teams that don't have the ability to stack decks, those teams like Ohio State and Iowa that can say, hey, we have this weight open. Like, if you come here, it is yours to come get. We have the NIL package. You'll come in as an instantaneous starter. You ain't got to sit and wait. Some guys are going to be tempted to do that. Even if staying at O State or Penn State is going to make you a little bit better, sometimes that opportunity is what you need.
Well, that's the appeal of it. The opportunity to go after 5, maybe you don't get 5, but 4, 3, and rather than sitting and waiting your turn for multiple years, you can be going after NCAAs immediately as a true freshman. So that's the impact here.
And dude, we just witnessed it. Guys that have spent years at Oklahoma State that go off to other places, and they look visibly even better. I think it's partly an illusion, but we just witnessed it this previous season. We had a couple different guys, Carter Young being one of them. That was a former Cowboy that left essentially during he had years of development before he even made that transition.
This is true.
And Teague Travis, he's another one of those. So if you're at Oklahoma State or a Penn State for 3 years and you're wrestling every day with the K-Sacks and the Dukes and the Messenbrinks of the world, and then you go to Ohio State or Virginia Tech, you're probably pretty ready.
The appeal is still going to be what Penn State and Oklahoma State have going for them. I expect more movement, not necessarily an exodus, because there's still the appeal of you are at Penn State, you are at Oklahoma State.
Right.
So you're still coming to the best of the best. You want to train here because other programs aren't going to set you up the way that we are. That's the overall appeal. So that's how you can offset the NCAA rules if you're the Nittany Lions and the Cowboys. Hey, that is where we're going to wrap things up on this edition of a Locked On Crossover. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks so much for being here. Let us know your thoughts about Lorenzo Norman, the national duels. Do you want Penn State there? And what you think about the NCAA eligibility changes. He is Cody Stovall of Locked On Oklahoma State. My name is Zack Seyko, the host of Locked On Nittany Lions. We're going to do more of these crossover episodes as the news unfolds, tournaments continue. There's no off season in wrestling, Cody. It is great to chat with you as always, and can't wait to do it again very soon.
Absolutely, brother man.